Most K-pop subunits start with a bang. Loud press kits, endless teasers, clocks ticking down to fake hype before the audio even drops. But some acts don't need to shout. They arrive softly, carrying the heavy toll of surviving an industry that idolizes flawless looks and crushes weakness. MiSaMo wasn't a surprise test run. It rose from the ashes of pressure, harsh gazes, and long-term emotional stamina inside the most competitive idol system on Earth. It was the dark, quiet fruit of endurance, finally ripening after years in the dark. See the weight of this trio? Go back to Twice's start, a time of strict ranks and harder roles. Center spots, singing lines, camera focus, and fame were rationed like gold. Mina, Sana, and Momo were gears in the engine, not the hood ornaments. Vital, yes, but rarely the main event. Their worth was in being steady, not being stars. In a biz that craves being seen, they mastered the dark art of thriving in the background without cracking. It was a lesson in silent power, waiting for the right moment. Survival had a price tag. Years of holding back meant eating insults with lips sealed, hitting moves perfectly with no applause, grinning through cultural friction, shouldering heavy hopes of two nations often at odds. As Twice soared to icon status, the J-Line silently mastered the art of being overlooked without dropping the ball. Here is the true plot twist, not the trophies, but the crushing weight hidden behind the curtain. It wasn't about the fame, it was about staying truly tough as steel. In K-pop, lasting long isn't luck. It's forged in quiet, patience, and knowing when to fold. MiSaMo didn't happen to ride a wave. It happened because 3 stars lasted long enough to finally claim the mic. When you grasp that, their launch isn't some extra perk, it's destiny. It stops being a side quest and becomes the main event they were always heading toward, step by step. To get how pressure carves idols before it cracks them, stay close. Subscribe, join the ride, and let's push forward into the messy, raw truth here. When Twice blew up, the vice tightened. They were forced into boxes that didn't fit anymore. Stardom here doesn't ease the load, it adds weight. Every twitch is judged, every flaw gets zoomed in on. For the trio, the post-fame era wasn't a party. It was a grind. A fight to stay alive while being dissected by a lens that never blinked, never slept. It was less about joy, more about enduring the glare. Momo took the hardest hits. Her skill as a dance icon was weaponized, cutting her down to a tool. The story was cruel and basic. All moves, no soul. Just flash, no depth. In a biz that hates lopsided stats, she swallowed the hate. It trailed her from the dorm to the dome, a constant toxic buzz, doubting her worthiness, ignoring that she was the engine. She faced the noise that said she didn't belong, even when she owned the vast stage. Sana's burden was different culture, not talent. One harmless post for her homeland sparked a huge firestorm overseas, showing how fast stars get turned into political pawns. She was forced to be a diplomat, a ghost, a saint, expected to span divided nations without tripping, even as the earth shook under her heels. The price of being the bridge? You bury your feelings deep. You become a canvas for their anger, invisible in your own skin, silencing your heart to keep the peace whole. Mina's war was deep inside. The stage, her realm of pure poise, turned into a source of panic potent enough to tear her away from her life. Her exit was more than missing shows. It screamed how fragile the ice is in a biz that demands eternal visibility. When she re-emerged, flanked by her bandmates, it showed the hidden, brutal truth behind the glam. Survival in this bright hell is never a solo trip. It's a sisterhood where only love keeps the heart beating. The trauma didn't shatter the J-Line. It forged them. Quietly, privately, deep in the gut. They learned the art of waiting, faith, and perfect timing. Unknowingly, they were pouring the concrete for a future that was impossible to build until they walked through this fire and stayed alive. As Twice turned the page, the vibe shifted. Fame secured their throne, but safety in this game is a trap. Once you're top dog, the mission isn't survival, it's evolution without imploding under your own history. For ages, Twice was pure neon candy, bright, energetic, a monolith of joy. That script was gold, too rich to dump, but it choked out individual fire. They were a brand, not a band of souls. The challenge was breaking the mold without shattering the spell. As they grew up, the scene morphed. The fans aged. Tastes changed. Crowds craved depth, not just smiles. Here lay the fissure in the facade. How do you serve grown-up art without killing the magic that built you? How do you let women expand when their image is bolted to the floor? It's a paradox. Evolve or die. but don't change too much, or you burn the legacy. The fix wasn't a fight. It was a split. Not a breakup, but a branch out. A subunit was the pressure valve, letting steam out without blowing the engine. For the trio, timing was key. They'd shown grit, loyalty, and nerves of steel. They weren't begging for a loose leash. They had paid for the right with sweat and tears. It was a deal of deep respect. Backstage, this move was huge, bigger than has shown hits. It screamed that Twice wasn't scared of cracking anymore. Solo ventures didn't threaten the dynasty. They fortified the walls. The J-Line finally got a stage of their own, away from the suffocating weight of being global ambassadors. They could breathe, finally stripped of the heavy diplomatic duty. It was freedom, not from the group, but from the crushing demand to be everything to everyone constantly. This wasn't a power grab. It was a survival need. Years of silence built a scream that had to escape. MiSaMo wasn't a corporate mandate. It happened because the foundation was solid enough to hold the weight of change. When the gate swung wide, their path shocked everyone. It laid bare a stark truth. The women they really were had nothing to do with the dolls they played on TV. The contrast was blinding. When they hit the lights, the shock was absolute. This wasn't Twice 2 or a safe replay of old hits. The vibe, the tempo, the look, it was a radical detour. While the main group's Japan tracks were anthems for the masses, MiSaMo went dark. They dove into mood, quiet power, and tight control. It was intimate, shadowy, and chilling. A massive risk? Yes, but they knew the odds. It was a move made by pros who were done performing for the cheap seats. Pop logic says, be loud, be fast, be huge, or die. MiSaMo said no. They didn't shout. They whispered with authority. Sensual, never cheap. Their dance was about the pause between the steps, making stillness hit harder than movement. Control was their art. This wasn't a desperate claw for attention. It was the flex of veterans who know that class wins, honed by a decade of grind. They didn't need to scream to be heard. The real kicker? The audience. MiSaMo didn't water down their souls for global clicks. They sang in Japanese, raw and untranslated. No subtitles, no apologies. They flipped the script on K-pop exports. This wasn't K-pop tweaked for Tokyo sales. It was Japanese DNA sharpened by Seoul's rigor, seizing back their heritage instead of hiding it. They stood firm, proving that true culture isn't a barrier but a blazing superpower. Momo finally shut down the haters. Songs that actually fit her tone proved her vocal worth. Mina's class, often lost in the frantic shuffle, took center stage. She wasn't just background pretty anymore. Sana shed the cute act, revealing a woman grown. No more fake giggles. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They just cut the brakes. The heavy masks dropped, and the true artists breathed. The reaction proved the rumor true. MiSaMo didn't stun us. They nodded to what we already knew. Under the Twice brand, 3 artists were waiting to break their cages. They had outgrown the plastic idol box. This wasn't mutiny. It was evidence. Evidence that silence pays off. That you can flip the script without burning your history. Patience plus a shot at the mic equals a new legend, built on the past. When MiSaMo hit the peak, the chatter changed. It wasn't just a spin-off anymore. It was a lesson. It showed that staying power and trust beat cheap buzz every time. No drama, no infighting, just a win. Twice kept ruling the pop world. While MiSaMo drove down a dark, sexy road the main group couldn't touch without crashing the bus. They proved you can have your cake and eat it too. 2 worlds, 1 universe, no clash. It was a masterclass in balance, showing that true growth doesn't require destruction. Such harmony is a ghost here. Usually, side projects show cracks. MiSaMo showed pure steel. They proved that a secure team lets its players fly without panic. Their art wasn't screaming for clicks or chasing trends. It was precise, deliberate. Every drop was a mood. A statement of cool assurance from icons mastering the game. They didn't need explosions to prove their power. They just stood tall, letting the quality speak for itself. Crystal clear. The legacy is deeper than sales. MiSaMo shredded the laws on aging in a biz obsessed with youth. They proved that waiting pays interest. That hate, if you survive it, builds a spine. That years in the shadows aren't wasted time, they are a hidden reservoir of power, collecting heavy interest for when the lights turn on. It is the absolute triumph of the long game. This intimate tale lays bare the secret life of stars. Ignore the flashes and awards. Look at the hushed devotion in the shadows. Years waiting on the sidelines. hungry, the debt to their homelands, the hidden scars camouflaged by makeup. MiSaMo didn't just survive that cruel game, they embraced the burn, turning every single quiet scar into a beauty that simply demands worship. See, this intimacy is vital. It's not merely about fame, but realizing that in this affair, the climax screams loudest after the quiet patience. Do you desire forbidden peeks into the struggles, the heat, and the shadowy forces manipulating the scene? Then commit to us, subscribe, love the video, and bare your soul in the comments section. Our night isn't over yet. The next reveal is already calling your name, my love.